What's up YouTube, that Matt Money here, and today we're talking about, is NAT stock a buy, a sell, or a hold? So NAT stock, it was all the way up to $9 and now it's down to $4.30. So are we thinking this is a great deal, or is this still a ripoff and it's going down to nothing? So we're going to look into all the aspects of NAT stock and see how we feel about it on this episode today. Please like, subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let's get into it. So to understand why this company got so overvalued so quickly, we have to take a look into the past. So, looking into the past, what happened? So, Russia and Saudi Arabia had an oil war. Russia kept cranking out that oil, and then there was a supply and a demand issue. Russia had tons of supply, and the demand was low. And what a good time, because the COVID monster came around, and nobody wanted oil. So what a great time to make a bunch of oil. So, oil on April 20th actually went negative because there was so much and such a little demand that people just didn't want the barrels of oil. And with oil, you can't just stop making oil. So what happens when you're still making oil, because you can't just stop, there's a huge excess of it and the price is negative. Well, you got to get rid of that oil. And who's going to take that oil? NAT stock. So NAT, it's a tanker stock. They give all that oil to NAT so they can hold on to it for them because the prices are negative. So that is why it had a big boom here lately, and that is why it went all the way up to $9 during that time. So oh no, oil's really high. NAT says, you know what? I'll take your oil for you, but you know what, boys? It's gonna cost you. So they're saying, we will take your oil, but you are gonna pay up the nose for it. So while this all was happening, the CEO went on Mad Money and said, we are making just banana boats of money right now. We are just rolling in it. All of our shareholders are going to get the biggest dividends they've ever seen, and they are just killing it right now. So that's what the CEO said, and then at that time it spiked shortly, very briefly, up to about $9. So we're going to go ahead and look at a couple other factors that's going to be in NAT's wheelhouse here right now. So we're going to go on the website, we're going to go ahead and check out where oil's doing right now and what everything that's going on with it.
So here we have the WTI crude oil price, and as we can see within the last 5 years, it's been as high as about $80, and before the crash, it was about $60. When it did crater with all of the COVID stuff going on, it bottomed out at about 20, and I know oil prices went negative, but that was futures contracts. The bottom here was about 20, and now it's back up to about 40 with the economy opening back up. So the big question for NAT is oil still going to keep going up? Are we going to have a second COVID wave, and is it going to go down? So that's what we have to weigh out with oil prices in mind. NAT website, we can also see some more positivity. We at NAT see a positive development for the remainder of 2020 and 2021. They think there's going to be demand for them to take oil. Our confidence is supported by the dividend that they're going to be giving out. So they gave a dividend of 14 cents per share prior, and now the next quarter they're going to be 20 cents per share, and they gave most of their profits out in dividends. So this seems to be a bullish sign. So on NAT's website, we can see the tanker market index, and here we can see annually where it's going. So year to date, it's actually doing great. It's at the same levels of about 2008, but then when you look on the right, you can also see that the pricing is dropping dramatically. But also in July, generally it has an uptick in value. It has uptick to July, and then by about September, it really starts cooking. So the question here is it going to keep falling, or is it eventually going to start rising back up? Because right now it is just plummeting the pricing that they're getting for their tankers. And we can see that here. The VLCC, it was getting about 93,000. Now it's only getting about 46,000. That's cutting about half. The Suezmax was getting about 53.4 year to date. Now it's only getting about 12.5. So that cut off about 75%. Same with the Aframax. So these prices are just falling right now, and we need to know, are they going to keep falling, or are they going to uptick like they do generally?
So we just looked at a few more factors with this company that's going to be either helping it or hurting it right now. Mainly with the prices of things falling, it's going to be hurting it right now unless we see a change in oil price. So what do the bulls think of this company, and what do the bears think of this company? So the bulls, if you're buying it, you're pumped about those big old dividends. So they announced 20 cents per share up from the last quarter, which is awesome. So they're paying most of their profits and dividends back to the shareholders. So that's pretty cool. So if you also think there's going to be a second wave of COVID, if there's a second wave of COVID, economy shuts down, oil prices crater again, and then nothing opens back up. So the same thing that happened in March could happen again if there's another big wave of COVID and we all go on lockdown. So that would be a bull thesis for this one, because oil prices would probably go down due to the lack of use. So if Russia and Saudi Arabia keep on fighting and keep cranking out oil, then that's going to also drive the price down due to high supply. So oil prices, if oil prices go down, NAT good. Oil prices go up, not so much. So let's talk about the bear thesis. So oil prices go up. So oil prices are going up. The economy's opening back up. Do you think that the economy is going to open back up completely, or do you think there's going to be another wave? Because that could kind of depend on what you're going to do, if you're going to buy, if you're going to sell. So oil prices go up, economy opens back up. Oil is being used for planes and for trucking and, whatever the heck it's used for. Russia and Saudi Arabia both take a really large chill pill. So they're just chilling now. They are not fighting anymore. They want to work with each other so that they can get the most for their oil. So then that would also raise the oil price, because they're not going to be cranking it out so much and there won't be as much supply. So that would then in turn increase demand. So these are what the bears of NAT stock are thinking, because if oil price goes up, there's not going to be that want to store it on a tanker. So this is the bull thesis and the bear thesis. Basically, oil goes up, that is good for your bears. Oil going up, oil going down, that's good for the bulls, because they're going to want to store it somewhere on NAT. So, bull and bear thesis there. Then we'll hop into kind of some final thoughts here at the end. What is my conclusion on NAT stock? Where do I think it's going to go? So my conclusion on NAT stock: oil prices are still significantly lower. WTI crude oil right now was at $40 and it was up to $80, and before the big crash it was about $60. So still significantly lower right now than it was before the crash, because the economy still hasn't opened back up, right? Strong storage demand, I believe, for Q2, and I think for Q3 for NAT stock. I don't think oil is going to pop up that quickly. I think there's going to be a few roadblocks with the old COVID there. So the economy, I think the economy will eventually open up. I think after Q3, we're going to be in full swing. NAT is going to kind of fall back into the past, and they're not going to be as relevant as they are right now. But I do think Q2 and Q3 are going to be sick. So I think it's going to be really sweet for Q2 and Q3. I think they're going to make a lot of money, and I think they're going to pay out some really nice dividends. And I am in it to win it for them yummy dividends. So I currently have 205 shares right now. I'm just going to keep tacking on the dividends, and I think that's going to be a great play for Q2 and Q3. My plan is probably to sell after Q3. I think they're going to fall back into where they were before, kind of just being, a little bit of nothing, holding on to oil, and I think oil prices is going to creep up. So I'm kind of on the bear side, where I think oil prices are going to come back, but I don't want to miss out on the exposure to if there's a second wave of COVID, because I think if there's a second wave of COVID, it's going to blow up. I think it's going to go back up to that $9 range, and it'd be an easy double up of your money. So I don't have a lot of money into it, and don't put the house on this one. This is just kind of a speculative play for me. I only have a couple hundred shares of it. So I want the exposure to if there's another COVID wave and then oil craters again. So I want that exposure. So this is my conclusion for NAT stock. I would say I'm holding it for Q2, Q3. I'm probably going to sell it after Q3, because I think it's just going to fall into obscurity again, and that's my play with it. So do your own research. If you want to buy it, have at it. If you don't want to buy it, that is what it is. I don't normally like buying companies that I'm planning on ditching after a short term. I kind of like buying companies that I'm planning on having for the long term, so this is kind of strange for me. But right now I kind of like the possibilities with Q2, Q3, and the COVID bump that could happen if it resurges again. So those are my thoughts on it. If you like the content, please like and sub, and you guys have a good day. Take care.